Good morning, everyone, and it's a delight to be here, and it's actually a privilege to actually follow the session that just got concluded. A number of very, very useful messages from here, and hopefully what you will see in this presentation that I'll actually cover, a number of the points that Manish and Gaurav made, I think hopefully you'll find them resonate through what I actually talk about when I get into the founder's mentality. There are two very distinct kind of topics that I'll cover today. One is macro, more of the India opportunity and what it means. And the second one is much more micro, exactly like the previous conversation, but hopefully putting some structure around that topic. First off, I'd actually like to start off with this page. Nothing new in here. We are going to remain the fastest growing economy for the next 10 years, for multiple decades to come. So I think that is something that we should keep in mind. But that's the data. What does that mean? It means that from a GDP perspective, 3 new Indias are going to get created roughly over the next few years. From roughly 3.5, we will become 8-9 trillion, so 3 new Indias. What does that 3 new Indias mean? It means that we will have, for roughly the same population, we will have a doubling of what it means in terms of the GDP per capita. What it means is that the number of people in the working age is going to increase. The number of middle-class households, that will dramatically change from 20 to 40. Similarly, in terms of the number of rich and middle-income households, that will increase. So all of these things are going to happen over the next 10 years. And keep that in mind, 3 new Indias are going to get created. What is the role that each of us can play in creating that 3 new Indias? Also, this is not just about projecting into the future and saying that, look, everything will be rosy from here on. This is very much a multi-decadal journey that we have been on. So if you look at these income pyramids of the Indian households over the last many years, in 2005, if you look at the bottom 2, roughly 8 out of 10 households were either destitute or aspirers. 8 out of 10. That particular shape of that pyramid has completely turned on its head if you look to 2030, where really 6 out of 10 will actually be in the top 2 income classes. That's the transition that we are in the middle of. And we've already seen 15, 20 years of that transition play out from 2005 to 2020. So we are very much in that journey. And that's what you see there in the top 2 income quartiles, where really about 200 million households are going to be in the upper income and the high income categories. That's really going to power through a lot of the GDP growth that will happen. Where is this going to come from? If you look at the chart on the first chart on the left, the biggest increase is really going to come from that massive expansion of the upper middle class. That's where the number of households will expand the most, and that's going to be the biggest contributor. From a geography perspective, it is going to be the metros, which will certainly continue to grow in salience from roughly 14% to about 18%. That will certainly grow in salience. Interestingly, the other thing that will happen is developed rural. Think of Kerala, which is really rural suburbia. Think of Punjab, which is rural suburbia. These are the geographies which are actually going to power a lot of consumption. And there you see the 13 almost doubling in terms of its contribution. So that's from a geography lens. And how do we think about this from a category perspective? It's going to be about roughly 55% is going to be from people buying more. So this is, buying more, eating out more, spending more on clothes, spending more on vacations. It's really, people are already in the category. They are spending more on that category. Roughly a fourth is going to come from premiumization. So in every category, you're actually going to be able to afford more, and therefore you will actually try to buy better quality products. You'll try to buy better quality services. You'll try to buy better quality experiences. That's about, a fourth of that. And roughly a fifth of that is really going to be about, addition of new categories into the consumption basket of the household. That's really where it's going to come from. One more point on the digital disruption. I think, a lot of this is going to be, needless to say, has been driven by and will continue to be driven by the digital disruption. And, as we like to say, a number of people are at the window. They're not yet shopping. But if you look at that funnel for India, 800 million people who are internet users, 500 million people who are really browsing the net, going to YouTube, going to Instagram, so they're looking for content. Roughly 300 million who are using the internet for service transactions. So think about UPI and the number of individuals who are actually transacting on that. Product transactors are about 250 million. So the headroom between that 200 million to the 800 million is massive. As all of these individuals, that's a 4x growth, as all of these individuals become product transactors from being internet users today, you will see a massive expansion in terms of the digital commerce that will happen in this country. Already we are at 20 GB per capita per month. We are the largest data consumption in the world. In terms of online shoppers, in terms of really the e-retail markets and a number of other indicators, all of those are going to power through and really drive, be contributors and enablers of the growth in the future. Last but not the least, and I'm not going to drain this page, there has been broad policy continuity, since that watershed year in 1991. I think across different, political dispensations, we've had broad policy continuity. And as long as that continues, I think the business environment will only benefit from all of the changes that are happening. That was the macro view. And so, everything on the macro is great. Does that automatically translate to successes for every firm, every individual, every startup at the micro level? And that's what I'm transitioning to now. And if you look at the chart on the left, that doesn't happen. Of every 100 companies that we've looked at, only about 13% are sustained value creators. What do we mean by sustained value creators? And I think Manish referenced that. First criteria, companies that grow at least 2 times more than the real growth rate of the country. So that's revenue growth. You see that the 100% drops to 17 there itself. Then there is an element of people who are able to not only grow revenues more than 2 times, but who are able to actually have profit growth in line with that revenue growth. So, more than 2 times country or industry growth rate from a profit perspective. And then you add companies who are able to earn more than their cost of capital. That actually brings you down from that 100% to the 13%. So being a sustained value creator is hard. It's not easy. And this is data that we've looked at country after country, including emerging markets, which have had a situation of, kind of a higher tide kind of lifting all boats. But this is data that actually bears out from multiple decades of Bain research. Also, what's interesting is the chart on the right, which is that when that happens, only about 15% say that the challenges are external. Almost everything else is because of internal challenges. So one of the things that we've been doing over the last 15 years or so is trying to understand, why does this happen? And we have come to this fundamental belief that there are, at the very core of business, there are 2 things that we are trying to look at. One is, are companies able to get the net benefits of founders' mentality? And second, are companies able to get the net benefits of size and scale? Those are the 2 most fundamental things that we are looking for. As the previous discussion also talked about, every company starts as an insurgent. Every company has a very sharp view of how they will disrupt the industry, have a very sharp view of a particular customer segment whose needs are not being met, and they have a solution for how they want to meet that particular need of the customer. And the founder at that particular point of time knows everything that needs to be known about the customer, about the supply chain, about procurement, about logistics, about all of those. The net benefits of founder's mentality are the highest at that point of time. They obviously don't have the benefits of size and scale. What happens? Companies try to become what we call incumbents. They try to get the benefits of size and scale. Absolutely valid expectation. You had the benefits of the founder's mentality in the beginning. Now you want to actually have scale. You want to be able to have proprietary assets, data, technology. You want to be able to outinvest the competition. So you're looking for those benefits. So the journey that typically companies then try to make is that how do I actually go from being an insurgent to actually becoming an incumbent without realizing explicitly that in the process they actually end up diluting the benefits of founder's mentality. And the default, so actually before I get to the default path, and this to me was, when I was listening to Manish and Gaurav, this was just so, every element of this I could think about. It's about actually being a bold mission where you're saying that I am the insurgent, I am going to actually know how I want to disrupt this industry, and therefore there are a few things that I will be really, really good at. That's the extreme focus, that's the spikiness. It is not about trying to be everything. It is about that these are the 2 or 3 things in the company that I will be really good at, and that's the spikiness. It's also about, being bold in terms of the ambition. It's about limitless horizon. We just heard individuals talk about, I want to be 10x. So it's actually about saying that, that's the ambition that I want to have. It is not about, what I have done so far. It's also about what is the potential that I have. If there's a $80 billion market, how do I actually get a large part of that $80 billion market? It is about frontline obsession. It is about relentless experimentation to know the innovation point that was being made. It is about relentless experimentation to know what is it that will really work. It is then saying, once I've figured that out, I will actually scale those up. It is about the frontline empowerment, and it is about, the customer advocacy that I want to have. That housewife must want to buy the, 1 lakh jewelry piece, etc. after seeing that picture. It's really about being obsessive about it. And it's about, having a bias for action, which only a owner really brings to a business. Those are the elements of the founder's mentality. I'll skip some of the examples. The benefits of size and scale are relatively more straightforward to look at. There's obviously an element in terms of, the scale advantage that it gives, the talent, the ability to attract high quality talent, the ability to learn from, multiple geographies, multiple business units, and so on and so forth. And of course, the market influence that you have as somebody who really has a say in terms of the critical choke points in an industry, if you will, like Google sometimes has. Those are the 2, elements of going into a little bit deeper of the founder's mentality and the net benefits of size. Now, I spoke about that insurgents try to get to the journey on being incumbents. What we have actually seen is that the default path is that they end up becoming bureaucracies. They don't actually get to enjoy the benefits of both. They end up losing the benefits of both size and founder's mentality. Why does that happen? The forces that work against these companies, there are a few things which come in place which actually reduce the founder's mentality. One is, as many founders realize, and many investors realize, is an unscalable founder. That is something at some stage that will come in. It's for the founder and the investors to realize when that comes in. There is going to be an element of lost voices from the front line. I just don't know, the point that Manish was making, I have to go to the field, I have to see what's happening. It's about, and leading by example, so the rest of the organization does that. Otherwise, you lose that from the front line. It is about the erosion of accountability. It's too large a company. I'm responsible for this part of the function. I'm responsible for this part of the company. I'm not responsible for the overall aspect. And it is about that revenues will grow faster than talent. 10x, yes. Will your talent grow 10x? Will the quality of that talent keep pace with the revenue growth? That's the challenge which comes in place when you think about the forces that work against you. What are the forces that make companies bureaucracies? Complexity. Growth creates complexity. Complexity kills growth. We've seen that time and again. So how do you keep it simple as you scale? That's the first element in there. The curse of the matrix. Multiple BUs, multiple geographies, multiple countries. Everybody has overlapping responsibilities, which means nobody has single point responsibility. That's the curse of the matrix. There's the fragmentation of the customer experience. Nobody is responsible anymore for everything that the customer is looking for. I'm sure that when the founder is in his early days, if there's a problem with the customer will call the founder and say, logistics mein ye problem ho raha hai, zara solve kar dijiye. And the founder will get into it. Versus, later on it is, 5 different functions where the customer experience is fragmented and nobody knows really what is happening fully. And I want to end with that, which is the last one, which is the why. I think Gaurav spoke about the why, which is, why are we doing this business? What is the nobler mission that we started this company for? What is the need that we were there to actually meet? Unless everybody is crystal clear about that, and unless everybody is preserving that day in and day out, death of that nobler mission will make everybody employees and not people who have the founder mentality. So obviously that's not a great place to be in. The goal is scale insurgency, where you actually enjoy the benefits of founder's mentality and you enjoy the benefits of size and scale. And there are companies who have actually, over a period of time, a number of these that you see in here, they were startups at one point of time. They all struggled with these at different points of time. Dell struggled, Charles Schwab struggled, all of them struggled. All of them ultimately have come back and become scale insurgents. So the journey is scale insurgency, not necessarily the easiest because of the different factors that I spoke about. So what is the last thing that I want to leave this audience with? How do you get to this roadmap to scale insurgency? The first question, where are you on this grid today? Know where you are. Unless you have an unbiased and an objective view of your point of departure, you can fool yourself into thinking that, I am a scale insurgent when you may or may not be. So I think get to know what that point of departure is. Second is in terms of really knowing what are the internal barriers to scale. I spoke about these four westward winds and 4 southward winds. Understand which of these 8 forces are really working against you. These are all internal. And remember what I said in the beginning, only about 15% blame the market. The rest of that was all internal. These are all internal factors. Last, what are some of the things on the external forces that you do need to keep an eye on? Whether it is in terms of substitution and penetration curves, whether it is shift in profit pools that happen as industries get disrupted, as value chains get disrupted, and what are therefore the changes in the business model that you need to make. As long as you can answer these 3 things, you will be able to get started in terms of your journey towards scale insurgency. And I know I've taken more than the time that was allocated to me, but hopefully that's an interesting conversation and leaves you something to take away. Thank you.